Hey, welcome to a very special, unique edition of Wild Fanline. I'm Brandon Mileski, former Golden Gopher Pat Micheletti with me as well. And we're talking about the Wild's 3-1 win over the St. Louis Blues tonight. The losing streak has ended at 7 games. And like I said, this is a unique version of Wild Fanline. Pat and I are currently doing this on all the KFAN social channels. So you can watch us at kfan.com/watch. Make sure you subscribe to the KFAN YouTube channel. This is also being aired on the radio, KFAN 100.3 or kfan.com/listen. But Pat, because of the unique way we're doing this, we will not be taking calls. We will not be taking talkbacks, but we will take your texts at 64686. We can also take your messages through the social media channels. If you want to just get into comments, we can react to what you have to say. But Pat, I just chatted with you earlier today on Beyond the Pod, and really everything that has ailed the Wild throughout this season, whether it's the goals allowed, the goaltending, the penalty kill, Matt Boldy struggling, the top line struggling. It seemed like everything, at least for one night tonight, was fixed. And you can't hear me. Well, that's not a good thing if you can't hear me. That's going to ruin this broadcast very quickly here. Just make sure you take everything out of mute if you could, Pat. And that doesn't work. All right. Well, Pat can't hear me. So let's see if maybe I can. Brett can seem to hear me. So Pat, why don't you just drop off and try to get back in, and we'll see if we can fix that later. But as we wait, let me talk about what I was just going to ask Pat about there, and let's see if you can get back in here, Pat. Pat, can you hear me? All right. All right. Well, I'm just going to talk for a while. At least the listeners can hear me. That's great. So if you guys want to jump in with comments, we'll just make this a one-man show here for a little bit if you want. But Pat's going to drop off. But so the Wild win 3-1 over the St. Louis Blues. 7-game losing streak has finally ended. And as I mentioned, I really love the way some of the top guys played, and really the entire team. I mean, they look like a different team tonight. They were much more efficient getting out of their own zone. Offensively, they seem to be a little bit more freer, seem to be having a little more chances. Obviously, there were times where maybe they overpassed it and the execution wasn't there. But you got me now, Pat.
I got you.
All right.
I don't know what the was, but
that's all right. It's we're living in a technology type world. But as I was throwing to you, everything that seemed to ail the Minnesota Wild throughout the season, whether it's the defense, the goaltending, the penalty kill, your top guys like Boldy and the top line Kaprizov, Zuccarello, for one night, it all seemed to be fixed.
Brandon, you and I talked earlier today, and I said, or maybe it was, I don't know. We've talked about it. Okay, I don't know, what's today or whenever about the Western Conference and how mediocre I think it is. And tonight kind of proved my point. I don't think the St. Louis Blues, who are 6 points in front of Minnesota, are that good a hockey team. It just, and that's what gives me hope about this team if they can turn it around. It was not the most exciting game tonight. We might see a heck of a lot more of that type of a game out of Minnesota, because that's the way they are probably going to have to play. They it was certainly nice, and you expect to see guys like Boldy, guys like Goudreau, score a little bit more often. Very good win. Hopefully that will springboard them into a little bit more confidence in their play. Penalty kill was really good. And it's a start.
Let's begin with that, PK, because Brock Faber gets a penalty, less than 30 seconds into the game. And, the Wild is so much throughout the season, and specifically through this losing streak. It seems like they're giving up goals early in games, and they were chasing games. And it's hard not to think, if you've been watching all the Wild games, here we go again when Brock Faber gets that penalty. But they kill it off, score right off that. You could tell they got some momentum offensively. Zuccarello makes that pass to Joel Eriksson Ek to score the goal. And it just felt nice to have a game where you had the lead early and felt like you weren't chasing. And that PK, as you mentioned, great all night. You had to kill off the 4-minute double minor from the Boldy high stick there in the third period. And it's amazing how when you were able to kill off some penalties, what that can do from you from a confidence standpoint and momentum standpoint.
For sure. And that goes along with, I thought the effort, it had a little more bite tonight in their game. They didn't give the Blues. Now, whether the Blues are very good offensively or not, I don't know. I couldn't tell. But you have to give credit to Minnesota because they didn't give them a lot tonight. There were St. Louis. I don't know. They didn't have much on their rushes. So Minnesota had guys back and they were covering them good. That's good. But they shut a lot of what St. Louis tried down. And from that perspective, that tells me they're getting back, they're closing on checks, they're snuffing them out. And so that's what kind of impressed me more so than anything tonight.
Well, Pat, there have been times throughout the years where I have actually listened to what you've said, and I still remember something early on when we were doing our early Beyond the Pond
Yep.
days, probably a good 10, 12 years ago, a comment that you made, and I think it applies to tonight's game because the team has had defensive issues all season long, giving up a ton of goals. Goaltending hasn't been great. Tonight, they looked fantastic defensively, but I think it goes back to a point you brought up a long time ago that you can look better defensively if you're possessing the puck more often in the offensive zone. And
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of why they were great defensively tonight is, they were dominant, especially in that second period. They had the puck in St. Louis's zone for quite a bit. And it's amazing how much better you can look defensively when you just have the puck on the other end.
Didn't you think their D were a little bit more active too?
Yes.
Faber especially. I mean, he's like, it's not my first game. I'm not in the playoffs anymore. I'm playing. And
Middleton had a moment where he was in the slot fishing for a rebound.
Right. And I thought, by the way, he had a really good game.
Yeah.
If you have your four core, right, get Spurgeon going a little bit more. Faber and Brodin have been terrific. That is, they're going to log a lot of minutes. They are, let's face it. But you get those four going, and it'll be interesting to see because this was Heinz's first game, right? How much coaching did he do? How much did he implement? We haven't seen it yet, but I think if his biggest goal, in my opinion, is to get this team to dumb it down until they're ready to, take little baby steps with them. Let's defend. Let's go station to station. Let's get pucks in. Let's keep the game simple. And if they do that, then I think they could be okay.
I tell you what, though, Pat, and whether it's a Heinz thing or maybe it's just a coincidence, the team did appear to play freer tonight. Now, let's be honest. When a coaching change is made like that, like you're going to be dialed in more from a focus standpoint. But I guess I'm trying to say freer in terms of I thought they played more creatively tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have scored way more goals than they did. They scored the 3. They had multiple grade A chances.
Yep.
I mean, how about the one Zuccarello whiffed on the Kaprizov pass, the Rossi great one-touch pass across. Maroon had one just a shift or two later on a pass that came across to him.
Yeah.
Boldy only played 12, 13 minutes and had a ton of chances and had some great passes. And you mentioned the defensemen were jumping up in the play. It seemed a lot more often. I just thought, they were trying creative things earlier in the season, and it was turnovers that were going the other way. And I do wonder if the staff, led by Dean Evason, kind of neutered the team a little bit and said, we're giving up so much, we need to play a simpler style. And I felt like they just played with more freedom tonight.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, where they were trying to do all that stuff. Well, they were trying to do it, and then guys were out of position, and there was no method to their madness. They were out of sync, and he meant, but I jumped up in the play. 2-on-1 the other way goal. Goals, things like that, and so, hey, listen, it's one game. They got the win. They should feel good about themselves. They didn't give up a lot. They know. I at least listen. I when I look at the Blues, I just don't. I don't see it. I mean, I really, maybe they had enough.
Have you seen it from the Wild this season?
No, no, I haven't. But that's what tells me though. But then I look, and I see, well, they don't have a Kaprizov, they're Thomas, Cairo, but they weren't very impressive tonight. Maybe they just had off games. I don't know. But the point being, they're not 6 points better than Minnesota, and it tells me that if this team can find its game, can get structured, can get in sync and in rhythm, they're still in a hunt for a playoff spot.
Like I said, you can text us at 64686, or you can message us through the KFAN social channels. I got this one from Let's Get It. He says, Boldy with less than 13 minutes of total ice time, he scores more goals if his time goes up. And that is something that I noticed on the score sheet as well, Pat, that he only played 12:56 tonight, but he had obviously that huge goal in the third period. He had 4 shots on goal, 1 attempt that was blocked, 3 missed shots. So he had 8 total shot attempts in just that 12:56. He also had a couple nice passes, including that one to Spurgeon, that cross ice pass. But I have to think for a guy like him, he was feeling the pressure, Pat. It's been a month and a half since he scored a goal. And I have to imagine to get the monkey off the back for him tonight feels good.
It has to, and maybe he can breathe now and just play, because he's a great, we saw what he did last year. He had 31 goals. I mean, the kid can score. It's not like he lost it. It just, he missed the net a couple times tonight where, what, you can't do that. He'll score more if he hits the net. But good for him, and they need him to get going. Kaprizov was okay tonight. He wasn't great. He was okay. But they, again, they need him to be better. They need, they need their top guys to perform every night.
Well, how about their secondary guys? That's what former intern guy Eric Tebow. Good to chat with you, Eric. He's always one of my favorite interns. He says Freddie Hockey scored. Can the secondary scoring be consistent as it was last season?
Well, guess what? And I'm probably going to get in trouble here, but I liked the fourth line tonight. I did. I thought they had
they had some energy.
Yep, they had some energy, and I don't know.
Moving.
And I don't know if you take Vinny Lettieri out of the lineup. I really don't. I think he adds a dimension that they need. And, yes, Freddie Gaudreau got one tonight. Good for him. But good for him. I'll leave it there. I won't get in trouble.
Well, he had missed a bunch of games this season, and it's always good to get some depth back. And I'm with you. I'm just kind of meh on him. He's great in the shootout. If we ever, we miss him when we done the shootout. But I thought overall, Pat, that all your forward lines played pretty well. Other than I wasn't a big fan of Maroon's game tonight.
Yeah.
But we've focused a lot on the big name guys like Boldy and Kaprizov, and rightfully so. And even Zuccarello. I thought Zuccarello was great tonight, other than whiffing on the one shot. But I thought just his playmaking looked like the old Zuccarello tonight. But the secondary scoring also has not been there, right? I mean, you know what you're going to get out. You know what you're going to get out of Joel Eriksson. He's going to be consistent, but Johansson's a guy who's supposed to be getting top six for you. Foligno is supposed to be able to chip in occasionally. And you mentioned that fourth line. I thought they looked way different tonight. I thought Duhaime and Dewar and maybe it's all of a sudden you bring in a new coach and your role is not guaranteed anymore. And those guys are guys that you never know. You might not be in the NHL a year or two from now if you don't get going. And I thought those two were really sparked, and I just thought they were skating and played with energy tonight.
Well, yeah, and Brandon, every time I've watched them play this year, it's like, oh, I'm just going to go and try to blow somebody up. I don't know what else is going on, but I'm going to try to blow somebody up. Tonight, I saw Dewar. Dewar can handle the puck. I mean, he's got skill in his game. And I know that's not what your fourth line is. Technically, you're supposed to be banging and grinding. I get that. But you know what? that line created some opportunities tonight, more so than other lines at times. And if they can get that going or continue to play on that, they'll get rewarded. And I was happy to see that tonight out of that line.
I got this text message from Arik. He says, "This happens 96.2% of the time in every sport. You change coaches and the team plays
Yes.
good, gets a win, and then goes back to what they really are, mediocre to less than average. Will he put the team together? He is more responsible than was Dean. We'll see in the next few weeks games to see if it was all coaching or if the team is a middle of the road squad." Yeah, I mean, clearly a team's going to be motivated and inspired their first game, and we'll see if that is sustainable.
Yep, and Hines did the same thing when he joined Nashville. Got him on a run, and then they leveled off. And every team will do that, maybe, I think it comes down to how long can you keep it going, and can the guys, then it's up to the players, right? Can they maintain that? And can they accept a loss when they lose? Can they accept two when they lose and bounce back? That's the sign of whether the team is just mediocre or has some bite to their game and gets mad and gets back on their horse. We'll see, right? We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you know the team's going to be focused and playing with intensity on a day like this. But Pat, this team was also suffering from a crisis of confidence. It
Yeah.
was all over. It was all over their faces,
Everybody.
all over their body language.
Yep.
Every guy in the lineup, for the most part, from the goaltenders to your defensemen to your top line guys, and it's hard not to think, hey, one game. We've seen Matt Boldy go on tears before.
Yep.
Maybe that sparks his confidence. Like I said, I thought Zuccarello was the best game he played all season long tonight. Jared Spurgeon, I thought that was the best game he's played all season tonight. Who says that a little bit of confidence might not go a long way with this team?
Right. And we saw it last year. I mean, they went on a roll after starting out horribly, 18 goals in the first 3 games they gave up a year ago. And then, they found it. So we know that they have done it. There's history to it. It's not that much different of a team than a year ago. We'll see if they can do it again.
Diesel Fueler says, "Is John Hines a permanent hire or interim?" He is a permanent hire. And I don't know if permanent is the right word, but he's got a multi-year deal. He's not coming in on an interim basis. And
nope.
Josh Svensson wants to know, hoping Hines can get more out of Moose. Need him to contribute more. Marcus Foligno, where are you at in him evaluating the season he's had thus far?
Matt, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see him get going. I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know if he knows what he is or what they want him to be. I think he's kind of, should I contribute more on the offensive side? Am I more of a, take care of my own end, great forechecker, grind it out, get pucks? What am I? And so they got to get him going. And no, I don't think they expect him to get 25 goals. I think he surprised us with 22 2 years ago or whatever it was. But if he can get you 10 to 15, play hard, play tough, I think that's what you're looking for out of him.
You played hockey at a high level, Pat. There's just certain guys you have chemistry with, and certain guys that, regardless of their talent level, sometimes it doesn't fit. You don't think the same way. And Foligno had what I'd say a 2-year stretch where it was him and Joel Eriksson-Ek and Jordan Greenway.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, for whatever it was, they just fit like a puzzle.
Yep.
And they all knew their role on the line. They all played the same exact way, and you could read what the other player on your line was going to do. And whenever one of those 3 guys was not on that line, it seemed like the play struggled. And and since Joel Eriksson-Ek, because he's a good player, has been moved around to different lines. He's been playing with Boldy and Johansson recently, and it's just never been the same with Foligno having to play with other guys.
Yeah,
And
right.
because you play a different game.
Yeah, and maybe and I don't know what combination works with him. I don't know. Because if you put him back with Eck, um, then it takes away maybe Eck's offensive game a little bit.
And you're trying to get Boldy going, so you want
And
to
you're
put
trying
the
to get
best possible
Boldy
players with
going,
him.
right? So I don't know.
I mean, the only other way you could do it is maybe you reunite Rossi with Boldy and Johansson. You put Hartman once he gets off of suspension back on with Zuccarello and Kaprizov, and you could try reuniting Eriksson. They've done that this season for a couple game stretch, but even then, you're still missing a third piece. It's not like Frederick Gaudreau, if he's on that line, is going to play the same way, or if Pat Maroon's been on that line, he's not going to play the same way as a Greenway would in the past. So
right. You know what? It'll be interesting to see how they come out in Nashville, because they'll practice tomorrow under Hines. He got a good look at what he has tonight. I'm sure he's going to go over things with the general manager and the rest of the coaches, and I'm curious to see what the next few games look like under him.
All right, but Pat, we got about 2-3 minutes left. I just want to talk about one Gustafson, 23 saves tonight. I didn't think he had to do a whole lot. He didn't have to make a big saves, but and even the goal he let in, I thought was probably one he should have had.
Yep.
But that being said, you finished the game with 1 goal against. This season, we'll take it.
Absolutely. And maybe only giving up 1 gives him some confidence. Whether it's 10 saves, 40 saves. Tonight it was 23 saves. He had to make some big ones. He had to find the puck at times, and so he was fine. Again, St. Louis didn't offer much on the offensive side tonight, but credit Minnesota for the way they defended. So it just wasn't St. Louis. It was how Minnesota played too.
All right, last one for you, Pat. Let's talk about the coaching change to John Hines. What did you know about him before tonight? Obviously, 2 different stints in Nashville and New Jersey as a head coach, so he has plenty of experience.
Yeah, not a lot. So I called my brother Joe, who knows him quite well and has dealt with them and knows his style and just what we heard today. He's very, very detail oriented, likes the defensive part of the game, and so you'll hear the word detail quite a bit, I think, come out of his mouth in press conferences. Our detail was this. Our detail was not this. And I think he'll hold guys to that part of the game. Those hard parts of the game that that will hopefully help them win. So we'll see. I think Dean Everson is a great man. He's a great person. You and I have dealt with him since he's been here, and he's a good coach. And he brought this team to 2 100-point seasons, and he'll coach again in this league.
Pat, like the Wild game tonight, you had a bad first shift, but you came back and you responded quite well.
Well, you know what? You know what, Brandon? I just said, I got to forget about it, right?
You did.
You got to forget about it and get out there.
Move on to the next shift.
Because if I would have came into the segment with a poor attitude, you would have noticed.
All right. Well, now you're not finishing well because we're losing your signal. But Pat, thanks. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Brandon.
He's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. This has been Wild Fanline. Thanks for watching on the KFAN social channels. Thank you for listening on the Fan. Appreciate Brett Blakemore back at the St. Louis Park Studios for getting us on the air there. We'll talk to you after maybe some other Wild event. Of course, you can always listen or watch the Beyond the Pod podcast as well. We dropped a new one today talking more in depth about the coaching change. So thank you for listening and thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Have a good night.